Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZTV Live. Today is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. I'm Susan Mulligan-Fleischman, and I'm so pleased that you're all joining us tonight. If you can, give a little hello or a wave and just let us know that you can see us and hear us. It always makes us feel better to know that we are indeed broadcasting the way we want to be. I'm so excited tonight. We have a wonderful show for you. Alan Stillman is here. He is the founder of the Stroke Smart campaign, and the tagline is "Spot a Stroke, Stop a Stroke," and it's really an amazing, wonderful campaign that's saving a lot of lives. Just emphasizing how important it is to act quickly. But we'll get to Alan in 1 minute. But I did want to bring and introduce you to our newest host of ZTV Live, Grace Arnold. So I'm going to go ahead and call Grace Arnold.
Hi, Susan. I'm glad to be here. I am new here at the Zebra, actually. I am a recent graduate, graduated in May from Gustavus Adolphus College, a small school in Minnesota. I was an English major, so writing is really my field. And, over the summer, I was living at home working for my dad, just like most recent graduates probably were. And in August, I came out to DC and I found the Zebra, and I never looked back.
Well, that is fantastic, and congratulations and welcome. We are thrilled to have you here. You hit the ground running as soon as you came here. I think I've lost count of how many articles you've written, and you've covered Johnny on the Spot interviews and been there and helping out on ZTV Live as well on the print side, which is the Zebra has so much to offer, and so we're so thrilled to have you on board.
Thank you. Very glad to be here.
Good. Well, and with that said, I'm going to, this is really your interview tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and let you take over from here. So, ladies and gentlemen, Grace Arnold.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Again, we encourage you to interact throughout this interview and ask any questions that you have. My guest tonight is Alan Stillman, as Susan already introduced. He is the CEO and founder of QuickPoint and the founder of the Stroke Smart Alexandria campaign. So, Alan, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure to be here. Great to meet you both.
So, Stroke Smart Alexandria. So, Alexandria is, as of 2017, a Stroke Smart city, the first Stroke Smart city, actually. But Stroke Smart Alexandria, the campaign, has been a long time coming in the process. It actually started on a bike. So tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
Sure. When I was 4 years out of college, I decided I wanted to see the world, and I set off on a bicycle for 2.5 years. I traveled through 28 countries, pedaled 15,000 miles, and I only spoke English. So I found myself carrying phrase books and dictionaries in French and Turkish and Arabic and all these different languages. And one day I realized that rather than have 22 dictionaries and phrase books, if I just had pictures of what I was trying to say, it would be a lot easier to communicate. So I got this idea to develop a system of picture cards, like folding picture cards with little icons on it, so someone could just point to a picture to communicate. Decided to call the company QuickPoint, because you just quickly point, and went ahead and started the company. And that's how I started getting into publishing in pictures, which eventually played a role in StrokeSmart Alexandria.
Yeah, absolutely. The visual language aid is so useful for everyone. Again, like you said, QuickPoint, very apt name. Just quickly point to something. Very convenient, very smart, clever. And it's not only useful for just communicating with people in other languages. You said that it changed after 9/11 in one of your presentations that you've done previously. So tell us where QuickPoint went after that point.
Sure. So I was basically a publisher in the travel industry. And when 9/11 happened, the travel industry melted. No one was going on recreational leisure travel. And 3 days later, on September 14th, I got an email from a major in the United States Marine Corps saying, I use your card when I travel too, but it would be a lot more useful if it had images geared toward helping soldiers in combat zones get information. And that completely changed everything. So I went ahead and started changing my designs to work with the military specifically to help soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we were after 9/11. And one of the main things they wanted to get information on was where threats were. And the number one threat, the number cause of death to all services during the war was these things called IEDs, improvised explosive devices, sometimes called roadside bombs. And because they're improvised, they're hidden, they're hard to find, and it's difficult to know what to look for. So we started designing communication cards so that the soldiers could ask the locals where the bombs or IEDs were hidden or where they were being made. And often the locals wanted to tell the information because they didn't want the bombs to go off any more than our soldiers did. And it worked. And it became incredibly effective. It became standard issue for every soldier going into combat zones. We found thousands of IEDs over the course of the conflict and saved countless lives when these IEDs don't go off.
Yeah, absolutely. So QuickPoint has been saving lives even before it became StrokeSmart Alexandria. So turning it into StrokeSmart Alexandria, where did that inspiration and that passion come from for you?
When I was raised by my mother and grandmother, I lost my dad really early. And when I was 12, my grandmother had a stroke, and neither my mother or I understood what was going on. And we waited, sadly, several days before calling 911. And my grandmother had a horrible outcome. She was completely aphasic, could never speak for the rest of her life. She was paralyzed, her entire body. She became what's called a shut-in, just locked in her body. And, this was my parent. I loved her deeply, and I would just go visit her in the nursing home, and it just broke my heart. I couldn't understand why she couldn't see me or hear me or speak with me. It was just devastating. And then my mother, who had a background with some depression to begin with, fell into a deep depression and eventually overdosed on sleeping pills. And so I lost my grandmother, my mother, my two parents in rapid succession because of a stroke, and I was raised in a foster home after that. And so as an adult, when I learned that one of the main reasons people don't get treated for stroke is time, they don't understand what a stroke is and how to get to the hospital or call 911, I thought kind of just to honor my grandmother, if I could help even one person not have to lose a loved one because they don't know that it's a stroke, it just seemed like a really, just a very heartfelt way to honor my grandmother and a thing to do, Rose Horowitz.
Oh, absolutely. And those strokes and those effects of them can be so devastating, and people don't even know that that's what's affecting them. I mean, you on your StrokeSmart Alexandria cards, you publish some incredible statistics about how these catastrophes affect families. So just tell us a little bit about those statistics that are on the card.
Sure. So one of the things that shocked me is that there's a 1 in 6 lifetime prevalence of stroke. I mean, if you took 6 people in a room, one of them will get a stroke in their lifetime, any 6 people. It's closer to 1 in 5 for women. So this affects everyone. And what that means is that 80% of the population, either you, your spouse, your parents, or your children or siblings, if you draw a circle, your immediate nuclear family, there's an 80% chance that one of those people will have a stroke in your lifetime, which is basically almost everyone. So it's just so critical. And once you get a stroke, 2 million brain cells die every minute. So they always say that, time is brain. So every second you can get closer to getting treatment that saves, literally as they die, you start to get a disability that will be with you either part-time or forever. So time is everything. I mean, 2 million brain cells a minute. And those are some of the statistics, on there.
Yeah, those are incredible statistics, and I'm sure they certainly spur people into action once they've actually seen those statistics. And that timing too. So the hospital delay.
It's also the number one cause of long-term disability. And in some ways, to never speak again or never walk again, not only the burden to yourself, but your whole community then has to, focus on you. People go from being wage earners and parents to just being, disabled and needing so much support for the rest of their life. And so it's just so critical.
Oh, absolutely. And that timing is what's most critical. And that hospital delay, why do most people, first of all, why can't they spot a stroke? And second of all, why do they wait so long before they seek help?
So let me start by just saying that there's a couple of treatments for stroke, and the main one is something called TPA, which is a clot buster. And what most strokes are is just a blocked blood vessel. Just think of it like a hose with like a little pebble in it that's blocking it. And the clot buster just melts the pebble and the water flows. But the FDA only allows that medication to be administered within about 3 to 4 hours after the stroke. Beyond that, it's not approved for the FDA because it just doesn't work effectively. So if you don't get to the hospital in time to get that medication, it just can't be given. And therefore, you can't be treated that way, which is the main treatment. And so time is everything. And if you get the treatment, like in the first hour, or there's almost 100% chance if that flows through you in the first hour and it's an ischemic stroke, you'll have no residuals. Essentially, you'll be going home the next day like it didn't happen. So they call it the golden hour. Time is everything. But to get back to your question, unlike, say, a heart attack where you collapse or choking where it's obvious, with a stroke, it's not. The signs are subtle and people aren't sure it's a stroke. They just think something's not quite right. And so what people do is they wait. They go, something's not quite right. Let's see if it goes away. I'll call my doctor. You call your doctor, you get a receptionist. He goes, oh, the doctor, here's some time tomorrow. I'll come back tomorrow at 2. So they do all these other things. But the main reason is, one, they don't recognize the signs of a stroke. And 2, they don't know time is everything. When you have a stroke, you don't drive to the ER. You don't call your doctor. You don't call your cousin who's a nurse. You call 911. You call 911 and say, I think I'm having a stroke. Or you say, I think this person I'm with is having a stroke. It's critical to say that, because as soon as you say that to them, they start a whole triage process. They call the hospital. They know you're coming. I think of it almost like, when a plane lands on an aircraft carrier, like everyone's ready in the right place. They have this runway just to go. That's what it's like at Inova Alexandria. When an ambulance is coming in with a stroke victim, every person is in the right position to get them scanned, to get them the medication. So it's so critical to not only learn to recognize it, when you call 911, say, I think this is a stroke.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of a difference that 1 hour can make in determining the health of someone after they've had a stroke. And like you said, the reason people delay getting to the hospital is they just simply can't recognize what the symptoms and signs of a stroke are. And that's where StrokeSmart Alexandria comes in. So tell us about the physical symptoms and signs that people can spot of someone having a stroke, and the images are on your cards.
So the way I've designed it is to start with the 2 simplest things that are visual. One is the smile. You just ask somebody to smile. Think of it like a test. Or if you just observe, their smile is droopy. But either way, if you ask them to smile and it's droopy, or it's drooping on its own, that's a stroke. You call 911, and they call that the smile test. The second one is the arm test. You just put your arms out, and if one arm drifts, you just can't keep it up. It just starts to drift a little. Again, that's a stroke. And those are the 2 easiest things to test for, the smile and the arms. And either one of them, you just call 911. There's 5 other signs to look for as well. One is the speech being off. Your speech is fuzzy, gargly, and blah, 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 like you just can't speak quite right, or the person with you can't speak quite right, or can't speak at all. So speech abnormalities. The next one is issues with vision. The vision can be blurry, fuzzy, sudden loss of vision, but your vision just is off. The next one is a headache, but not just a regular headache, like everyone gets headaches, but a sharp, sharp headache, a really horrible headache that comes on like lightning. It just comes on, an immediate, sharp headache, is likely a stroke. Another one is numbness on one side of the body, specifically one-sided numbness coming down the body. And the last one is loss of balance, just your balance being off. And again, I just named 7 things, but any one of them, you call 911. You don't need a combination, just any one. And of course, I designed the cards because, you can listen to this and maybe repeat it back to me. You're a sharp young woman recently out of college, but if 13 years from now at 2 in the morning, would you remember those 7 things if you just heard them this one time?
Absolutely not,
Right.
especially under stress.
So exactly. So the whole goal is that this is a lot to remember. So I said, why don't we find a way to make it easy to carry it on you, like a card that fits in your wallet, or a magnet that goes on your refrigerator. And then a couple things happen. You retain it because it's physically on you. You regularly, you fuss with your wallet, you pull things out, you look at it, so you get the repetition. And finally, you get access, so you always know where it is. Just to show you briefly, I designed this thing so it has like a little red strip that's slightly higher, slightly longer than a credit card. So you can just always pull it out and know you have it. And just another thing that's a little hard to show over TV, but this paper that it's on is a paper that we developed working with the military. It's a waterproof, tear-proof paper that, literally lasts for years and years. And when I say tear-proof, literally, if you want to win money in a bar bet, give somebody a drink, they can't tear this. And large Marines try to pull it apart. It's incredibly indestructible. And so by just keeping this in your wallet forever, you have that information with you.
Yeah, repetition, as you said, is key. I have your StrokeSmart fridge magnet on my fridge, and I look at it every day. And then you have the wallet cards. And then in addition to those two materials, you also have posters that are throughout the city and local venues like restaurants. And so people can go and see those too. And so how did these cards and materials lead to a community model? How did they lead to Alexandria becoming a Stroke Smart city?
So about 3.5 years ago, I was asked to do a TED talk on stroke recognition and my story and stuff. And that led to a member of Alexandria seeing it, and she said to me, you should talk to our mayor, at the time Mayor Allison Silverberg. And so I met with Allison, and turned out Allison's mother had a stroke, and so we both had this heartfelt, direct experience of how a stroke can change a family. And we just started talking and said, why don't we make Alexandria a stroke smart city? It was sort of a new idea, and we said we can just think of all the things that a city could do to educate its population about strokes. We'll write it up in a proclamation, and then it gets voted on by the city councils, 7-0 unanimous, kind of no controversy on that one. And on, I think it was October 10th of 2017, Alexandria declared itself a Stroke Smart City.
That's great. And those videos, I believe, the TED Talk and the Stroke Smart City Declaration are on YouTube, in fact, if anyone else wants to view them.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. And so to become a Stroke Smart City, you obviously have to have fellow pioneers or fellow stroke champions, as you call them. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, what a stroke champion is, how people become them, and then some of the people you have partnered with and the organizations.
So the idea of a stroke champion is somebody that wants to help others learn how to spot strokes and teach them about how calling 911 is critical. And first I'd say there's 3 reasons people can become a stroke champion. One is every time you tell it to somebody, you're reinforcing it in your long-term memory, so you're helping yourself. Secondly, every time you carry the message to someone, you could be giving them that little piece of information that may someday save your life. I sort of sometimes say can't think of any smaller piece of information that can make a bigger difference at the right time. Just learning this, these 7 ideas. So basically, you're doing good in the community. And then third, most people who have strokes, they're not able to call 911 themselves, that they're having a stroke. So I think 90 to 95% of the time, it's some kind of person observing it, whether it's a friend or a witness or a neighbor observing it. So whenever they educate their community to spot strokes, they're also turning everyone into sensors for them to help spot strokes in them. We talk about with COVID having, herd immunity, where we want everyone to be COVID free, so that they're immune to the disease.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been sort of using this term called herd literacy, that if we have a town Well, everyone knows how to spot a stroke. If all 160,000 people in our city are stroke literate, then almost anyone, if they have a stroke within eyesight of anyone else, it'll be spotted. They'll call 911 and they'll get treatment. So when you become a stroke champion, you try to raise this stroke literacy, this current literacy for it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so some of the more important people in the city obviously have had training, like the sheriff's department, the police department. Tell us a little bit about working with them.
Yeah, the law enforcement in Alexandria has been a wonderful partner. I did a series of 22 trainings, and we hit the sheriff's department, the people in the courts, in the jails, the police department. We trained the parking attendants, so those people, while they're going out looking to see if your meter's expired, they could also be looking to see if your smile's correct. So they are all educated. And then we trained the crossing guards. So, anyone that has any kind of badge in our city knows how to spot a stroke. So that was one of the nicer groups that were completely into it.
Yeah, that's great, because they are the first responders. So having to know how to do that is critical, because they're going to be the first ones on the scene in that case.
Absolutely.
And you've also worked with another key group of people in the city, students at the Alexandria City Public Schools. So tell us how you have implemented StrokeSmart in the schools and how the students have been responding to it.
So first, there's this wonderful way of teaching people through their children. It's called children-mediated health education, where the children take information, they bring it back to their parents, and it's particularly effective if the parents don't speak English. So Alexandria made a decision for the entire school system a couple of years ago to train all 16,000 of the students in Alexandria school system, K to 12, as well as I think it's about 800 teachers. And it's been a 2-year process of actually getting ready to roll it out. We went ahead and developed scripts for different ages of children. Like, for example, a young child that doesn't even know what 911 is. So you first have to start by teaching them what 911 is. And we went ahead and developed educational scripts for that. We went ahead and got a letter from the city of Alexandria so that when a student gets the education, they also get a magnet, they get several wallet cards, they get a letter to go home to tell their parents what they're receiving, and then they're given basically the homework to show their parents how to spot a stroke, to actually go home and have their parents raise their arms and smile. So wonderful things happen. The child learns how to spot it in their family, which is near and dear to me based on what happened to me. And in addition, the parents learn about it, and we give them as many cards as they like. So if they want to give it to their uncle or grandmother, and so it becomes very effective, because if you think about it, there's 16,000 children in the school system. Alexandria is 160,000 people. That's 10%. But then if those kids have a couple of caretakers and a parent and a relative, you start to maybe reach 20, 30, 40% of the city right through the school system. As far as we know, it's the largest school system in the United States to commit to do the full K through 12. So it's really just, again, a model for the nation of what a city can do when they really are dedicated to this cause.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such a smart way to do it, too, because it's a more direct way to reach these children who are so absorbent to knowledge. They're already in school and they're already learning. And for them to then be able to go and reach their parents and their friends, it's like a tree branch. It just expands that knowledge on being a stroke smart citizen for everybody.
Exactly.
And another idea and goal of yours, too, is for desk receptionists at doctors' offices to be stroke smart as well. Why is that so important?
It's a great question, because when someone's starting to have a stroke sign, often they're not thinking stroke. They just know something's off. My balance is off. My vision's a little fuzzy. It's like something's not quite right. Well, what do? You call your doctor. And if the receptionist doesn't know how to triage for stroke signs, and she just says, oh, okay, your balance is a little bit off, he's got something tomorrow or next Tuesday. They're trained to schedule appointments. That's what medical receptionists do. So another one of our goals is to educate the medical receptionist how to triage and say, wait a second, did you say that your vision's off? And all of a sudden start to think, wow, either let me get the nurse on the line or let me call 911, but definitely don't schedule me next Tuesday. And so reaching the physician's offices in our city is another key piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said before, strokes are sneaky. They can disguise themselves as just feeling a little off, or maybe even low blood sugar, or maybe just intoxication. So those are certainly conditions that might not need immediate response, where a stroke, absolutely, the timing for that is critical.
And you make a great point too, because sometimes there are other things. Obviously, many people can have headaches and they're not strokes. So, but it's always better to call 911 and let them figure out it's not a stroke. They'd rather you overcall and report stroke than undercall, because you overcall, okay, that wasn't that, go home. But you undercall and you may be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a good phrase to live by. It's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, and that certainly applies here. And so you definitely have, it sounds like, a lot of partners within the city of Alexandria. And your latest edition of this campaign is Stroke Smart Virginia. So tell us about some of the partners beyond Alexandria who you're working with to expand this campaign.
Sure. About 6 weeks ago, I was able to present you something called the Virginia Stroke Task Force, System Task Force, which is the stroke coordinators for the entire state. And we're now looking to create a movie we're working with them to educate a city on how to become a stroke smart city, a documentary where we'll be filming in Alexandria to do that. And in addition, we now have 6 localities that are starting stroke smart activities. Fredericksburg, Loudoun, Richmond area, Martinsville, Danville, I think one other, maybe Mount Vernon, which is actually a neighbor of Alexandria. So yeah, another handful of locations are starting to do the same thing. I'm shipping them stroke materials. We're talking about ways to do interventions, and our goal is to eventually get those towns to embrace it the way Alexandria has. And then ultimately, it would be amazing if it was a state initiative. As you know, our governor is a pediatric neurologist, so hopefully he would be passionate about stroke recognition more than anyone. So, but we're starting, a county at a time, a city at a time, a hospital at a time.
Absolutely, that's great. It sounds like it's just a domino effect. It's already grown so quickly in Alexandria, and I imagine it's going to grow exponentially throughout the state, and who knows, maybe throughout America.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that everyone should know. And when you think about it, if you ask anyone, if somebody collapses, do you call 911? No one says, well, you give it an hour. You think about it, like without a doubt, not 10 out of 10 people, somebody collapses, you call 911. But with stroke, the vast majority, like 80-90%, don't get there on time because they're not sure what's happening. If we could raise stroke literacy to the level we have for like heart attack literacy, it would save thousands and thousands of lives every year, forever.
Oh, of course. And knowing that this for you started from such a personal place, seeing how far StrokeSmart has come and how much farther we know it can go, what does that mean for you?
It really, I sometimes kind of joke that every time I educate somebody about a stroke, that someplace out there my grandmother can smile. It's really just a labor of love. I feel like I have this skill set that I got with visualization because of what I did with the military and stopping IEDs, and it was incredibly meaningful to have soldiers look me in the eye and say, thank you, I found a bomb because of you and I'm home, and it's just a very meaningful feeling to sort of think I can sort of do that for grandmothers and grandfathers, all across our city or our state, and know that people can just keep the people they love healthy. It's just a good feeling. It's really just a sense of, doing what you're here to do. It's sort of a gift to be able to have the time and energy to do something that really helps people. And so I just kind of like how that feels.
I love that. Yeah, that must be so validating for you. You must be very proud. You should be very proud of everything that StrokeSmart has gone through up to this point.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And so just one more time to really hone in on that repetition, if you could review the signs and symptoms of how to spot a stroke.
Sure. So again, the two things you can categorize as a test is smile, like you ask somebody to smile. And if the smile is droopy, if it's asymmetric, just comes down, you call 911. The second one is referred to as the arm test or arm drift. Just put both arms out. And if you just can't keep it up, it just slowly drifts down. You can't keep it up. Call 911. That's a stroke. The third is speech. And by the way, there's a little shortcut sometimes people use, FAST. F for face, A for arms, S for speech, T for time. Sometimes that helps people fast, FAST. But the third one is speech. If your speech is off, if it's gargled, blurry, that's a stroke, or again, call 911. I always say, they'll tell you if it's a stroke, but you call 911 and say, I think it's a stroke. The next one is headache, sharp headache, quick onset of a sharp headache. Next one is vision problem, blurry vision, loss of vision, fuzzy vision, but the eyes aren't working right. Next one is numbness on one side of the body. And the last one is loss of balance. And again, another trick that's out there is something called Be Fast. B-E, balance and eyes, B-E, balance and eyes, fast, F-A-S-T, face, arms, speech, and times, Be Fast, which captures 5 of the 7. And again, if you're more of a natural word person, Be Fast may be even a better way to memorize it. But whatever gets it into your brain, it keeps it in your wallet.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's very clever. And so if people can't remember that specifically, they can find some of your materials in their favorite local venues. And you're also working on designs for the Zebra newspaper boxes. You will have some of your StrokeSmart materials pasted up on our red newspaper boxes throughout the city. So once those go up, you'll be able to work on honing in your StrokeSmart ability to spot a stroke.
Yeah, it's great. The more people see it, the more ways, the more lives will be saved, really.
Yeah, of course. And so if anyone else wanted to become a StrokeSmart champion, where would they reach you for that?
So just drop me an email. It's just Alan, A-L-A-N, at quickpoint.com. It's probably on the screen, K-W-I-K point.com. And basically, you can do at any level you want. You can bring it to your congregation. You can bring it to your workplace. If you can just put out the cards in your kitchen, put a poster on the refrigerator at your company kitchen. I know a lot of us are at home now, but any place you go where you can show it to people, your sports team, your sewing circle, your book club, just contact me. I can send you the materials. Everything's free, and you can just help other people in the community learn to spot strokes and be a stroke champion.
Perfect. And it is so simple, and it's something that anyone could be doing. So if you have any final thoughts, comments that you want to add, please go ahead.
Really just that, think of it in your life, and there's like a 1 in 6 chance somebody that minute of information can make a difference. If you just sort of think about, the return on investment from learning this little thing, that difference it'll make someday. I just can't think of anything that's worth your time to just one way or another learn it, realize it, hold on to it. It can make such a difference.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Alan, so much for being here. Thank you for telling us about your StrokeSmart campaign. And again, please go find these materials across the city. Contact Alan to become a StrokeSmart champion, because it is something so small that can make a big difference for everyone.
Thanks so much, Grace. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Good night.
And so, viewers, thank you to everyone for tuning in. This was a very important episode. Thanks for interacting. We always encourage that. And that's it for this episode of ZTV. So I'll be here again Thursday at 7 p.m. with Matthew Robertson and his professional vocal ensemble, The 13, to promote their upcoming Christmas concert. Their article is already out online at thezebra.org and in our current print edition, our December issue. But those came out yesterday, so go and pick up your copy in any Zebra newspaper box or at your favorite local venues. And tomorrow on ZTV, we have Paul Dean of Legal Matters on the importance of estate planning for the parents of young children. And so until then, as we like to say at the Zebra, remember to be the